Okay, here is a video for how to assemble and sew a pamphlet book, much like this. The interesting thing about pamphlet books is it's what they did in the medieval times so that people could afford books who normally couldn't otherwise. There were people who would go around and make these, and they usually had things like small short stories or alphabets in them, and they're really cheap and easy to make, so people were making a lot of money off of selling these, because before then any of other books cost way too much money. So I'm going to show you how to do one that uses 5 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it'll be pretty easy. In this class you'll be using this as your journal, and it's going to be more of like a field journal. I'm very rarely going to assign actual things to write in here, but you're going to want to keep it because as you take notes and you jot down your ideas, it'll help improve your art a lot, and it'll also help me to see the kind of thought processes you're going through so I can help you learn so much better. So to start, you're going to want a piece of just cardstock, just a heavier piece of paper, and then a few sheets of good old-fashioned printer or copier paper. Now, the thickest I would ever suggest going is no more than 10 sheets, so there's 10 in here. And all you do is you will jog them together, just like that, and then fold it in half. Now here's my trick for folding things in half. Sometimes they kind of get wobbly and wonky like that, you know? So I like to put my hand like this, and put my fingers up against it, and then push the other piece up against my fingers until it hits. And then just make sure my corners are matching like that. And then I will hold down with this hand, and then just kind of crunch it. Like make a little fist and just crunch this side. That's just to kind of get the crease started. After you crunch it, then you can use a marker like this, or you can use the back of your thumbnail and crease it down just by pressing it and running it down like that, or here with the marker, and just giving it a good hard press. And that's how you get a really good solid crease, like that. Nice and clean, nice and solid. Okay, so now you have your book. Now you need to punch your holes. So grab something along the lines of a thumbtack, kind of like this. And the reason why we punch holes is even though you do use a sharp needle to sew, it's just so hard to push a sharp needle all the way through all the pages. So what you're going to do is do 5 evenly spaced holes. You open up in the middle, to the middle of all of these sheets, and take your thumbtack. And then at this point you're just making your middle dot, so you just want to eyeball it. So I'm just kind of like looking in between here, and I see, okay, right there, looks about middle for me, so I'm going to stick that in there, and kind of push it in and wiggle it until it just comes all the way through to the other side like that. Now please be careful not to put your hands where you're pushing through, because I don't want any bloody fingers or any Sleeping Beauty reruns. So go ahead and put that middle one in there, and then you want to make the 2 top and bottom holes. And the easiest way to do that is just to use the pin itself, or something else like maybe like a fingernail or your knuckle, just some sort of simple measuring device. I'm going to use the pin and just butt it up against the top of this, kind of like that. See how it lines up there? Butt it up against the top, and so I see, okay, it's about right there. And that's where I put my top hole. And go ahead and work it through. Something else, this is like a little bit of a pro tip here. If you're having a hard time getting it through, you can actually, instead of, see I'm using a table here, but if I went over to like a couch or a cushion or a pillow, and I could set this on top of here and I could stab straight into the pillow, because the pillow's not going to bleed. And it's softer and it's easier to kind of push it through until it comes all the way through. And you do the same measurement for the bottom. So I'll flip this around here. Boop, right there. And it helps to hold the whole book, between your hands, kind of like this, so that your pages don't get misaligned. And you're doing this right in the middle of the fold. So kind of work that through. Oh, it's almost there. There we go. Okay, all the way through. Now after this point, it's pretty simple. You just, you don't throw your pin. You eyeball between these 2, the middle one and the outside one, and just see what's just about in the middle of those 2, and push it through. And then you eyeball between the middle of these 2, so right about there, and push it through. So now you have your 5 holes. Go ahead and like work those holes around if you want to kind of make them big enough. You got them on both sides here. All right, now that you've got that done, you are going to want to grab a piece of thread. Now normally in bookbinding, the tradition is to use a wax linen thread. In this case, because you know I'm cheap, just some good old-fashioned embroidery floss is really good for this. And if you need some of this, you can come talk to me about it. But you want a piece that's about just short of a yard, so something about that long. So a good way to measure that is up against the spine. So it goes 1, 2, 3. So it's about 3.5 kind of spine lengths that you want to start working with. And you want to use a larger needle. Now it doesn't have to, see here's my needle collection, it doesn't have to be massive, it can be like a shorter needle. But you just want it to have a hole at top that's big enough to get a thicker piece of string through it, because you want to use thick string. Then all you do is lick it, lick the end of the string. Oh, there's the bell, just ignore that. Lick the string, and then pinch it with your fingers to sort of kind of flatten it. And then take that, and once I get it partially through, just like a little bit like that, I'm gonna go ahead and pull it all the way through. Now you don't want a super long tail like this, okay? No super long tails. Just make them nice and short, just like that. And the way to make sure that when you're pulling it through that it doesn't come unthreaded is just to pinch right here, and that way that string's not coming undone. All right, so the first step in sewing a book is starting inside in the middle hole. So you go ahead and just make sure that goes through all the pages, so like that. Kind of push and work it through. And sometimes it helps to kind of wiggle it if you need to get it through. And then once I've got it through about this much, I'm gonna pinch this so I don't unthread it and pull it through. Now I've got a long tail here. You want a tail still, but you want it to stay short. So I'm gonna make the tail about that long, so it just goes about a little over halfway across the book. Okay, so now I've got this one in, now I'm on the outside. So once you've got in on the outside like this, you're gonna go 1 hole up and come back in, like so. And then you kind of pull it tight. You don't want to pull it so tight. You don't want to pull it so tight that it comes undone. So just give it a nice little tug, just so it's just snug in there. And then the next hole you're going to go in is your top, very, very topmost hole. You'll go in that from the inside to the outside. Once you go from the inside to the out, now you've got this. So at this point, you're just going to come back through this hole. So not this one, not this one, not this one, just the next hole, the hole next to it, which already has a string in it, I know, but go through this next hole with the string in it already and come back in. Okay, and it's pretty much like that. You're going to keep going back into the holes that you've already gone in, except for this moment right here. Okay, this is the tricky part. Most people mess up, so pay attention. Instead of going into the hole that has the tail right here, you want to go into, you want to skip it, boop, 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 and go into the next hole under, like that. And I will be including a diagram of this stitch in case you're more of a diagram person, but the video seems to work best for most people. And then just pull it nice and taut. Okay. Now I'm on the outside, and I have 2 holes to go into. You want to go on the bottomest one once you get back out. Go back in, like this, pull it through until it's nice and taut. You don't want to pull too tight because then you're going to tear right through your holes and then your book's useless. So just get it nice and taut, and then you're going to go back in through this hole right here. So back in here and out on this side. And now this is your last stitch. So if you made it this far, congrats. So this is your last stitch. As you can tell, you've got a string here, and a string here, and so you just need to make sure that there's a string here. Complete the pattern. So you go back into the middle hole, and come through, and pull it nice and tight, and so now you have 2 tails. At this point you can go ahead and just unthread your needle, put it somewhere safe so you don't sit on it. Now you've got 2 tails. And all you need to do is tie a double knot. So for those of you who don't know how to tie a double knot, well, I'm probably not going to get this right if you're like a Boy Scout knot tier out there, but I just like to tie 2 knots. So take your 2 strings, curve one over, so like make like a little circle, put the other over top of it like that, and then you take the short one on top and you put it under and through the circle, just like that. You tie it tight and you do the same thing over again. So I'm going to make a circle, put the short one over top, and then so I've got it over top here, and then loop it under and through that hole. Just kind of make like a pretzel shape and pull it tight. Now everyone has their own personal preferences for how short they cut theirs. Some people like them kind of long. Me, I kind of like them kind of short so that they don't get in the way. And so I like to cut mine about that short. And then if you're really worried about coming undone, it probably won't, but what you can do is you can get like a little bit of glue and dab it down with the glue, or you can just kind of fray these ends, and the fraying will help it keep from coming untied. And as I fray them, I'm accidentally untying it. Okay, but yeah, it usually won't come untied unless you're being really rough with it, but if you're still afraid of that, you can just get like a bit of like white Elmer's glue and just dab it on there, or super glue, and it should stay. And now, you can go ahead and tighten up that. Now you have a book. Mine's got a nice little kind of watermelon colored theme, and that's what it should look like. Thank you so much for watching, and if you need any of these supplies, you can come talk to me, come talk to Mrs. Gates to get them, or they're pretty cheap, you can get them on your own too. Thank you so much, and I will hopefully see you next class.